Hello, I'm reading from One World again today, a global anthology of short stories, and I'm reading you a story by Laurie Kubuitsile from Botswana. It's called The Rich People's School. It's not very long, but please do let me know what you thought after you've heard the story. The Rich People's School by Laurie Kubuitsile. Sylvia moved to the huge granite boulder, now warm from the early morning sun. It was a ritual when she was here, especially on the cold days. The boulder would catch the sun until it was tea time at school, and when the sun moved completely off the rock, she would move slowly down the dry riverbed, making her way back to the corner at the end of the road near the school where she would wait for her gran. She would have preferred to stay at home all day, not sitting here at the river. She liked being at home, just her and her gran. She liked following her around, her gran carrying the big metal watering can and she the small plastic one, sprinkling the spinach in their tidy plots. Sylvia liked watching the water seep into the thirsty ground. She liked sweeping the yard with a broom made of grass until it lay tidy with engraved swirl patterns across its surface. But Sylvia knew that it would cause trouble if she refused to go to school, so she wasted her morning on her warm river boulder. A blue-headed lizard climbed very near to the bare legs sticking out from under her neatly ironed uniform. It didn't even know she was there, thinking her leg another part of the stone. It too was searching for warmth. It nodded its head as if in greeting, though only in her mind, because not even a lizard would greet a stone. Sylvia wondered sadly, then who would? Unthinkingly, she rubbed the stone in commiseration, and the lizard dashed away in fear. Lying back, Sylvia gently fell asleep. Her mind took her to her mother, not in distance, not far away in America, where she lived with her new family. Her mind carried her to her mother in time, to before school, when she was small and her mother lived with them at her gran's. They were all happy then. Then she met the American. He couldn't live in a dry, backward desert, he had said in his big voice that vibrated the walls in their small hut. That was not a life for him. If she loved him, she would go with him. But what about Sylvia? She had asked. No, a black Sylvia wouldn't do in a family that would be toffee-coloured brown. Sylvia could stay with her gran. She wouldn't mind. It would be better for her. Then she and her gran were alone. There was food, for money came every month from America to be collected at the Western Union counter at the post office, jealous eyes watching and nasty tongues talking when Gran and Sylvia left. Sylvia's mother had agreed to leave her behind only if the American agreed to pay for her to go to the rich people's school. The one on the hill, where every student grew up to become a doctor or a lawyer, and so he did. As the car stood running, the American waiting inside every minute or two shouting, "We will be late, we will miss our plane," out the open window, Sylvia's mother stooped down next to Sylvia in the well-swept dirt of the Loluapa, even though she wore the expensive white suit the American had bought her. "I will come and see you one day, and you will be a big, clever girl. You will go to university and have so many choices and not have to sell your life away like your silly, stupid mother." Sylvia remembered the tears falling from her mother's beautiful eyes and the long, low, moaning sound her gran made deep in the night while she thought Sylvia lay asleep next to her. They managed, though, Sylvia and her gran. Sylvia hardly noticed how their sadness hid behind the tasks of living. Then the time came for Sylvia to go to the rich people's school. On a hot summer morning, she went with her gran, who carried a thick roll of money in her dress pocket. When Sylvia saw the school, she thought perhaps she had been taken to another country. Green, grass-covered lawns were being watered from hidden pipes in the ground. Flower beds bloomed in every rainbow colour. Children laughed and chased each other around brightly painted jungle gyms and swings. Sylvia had never seen a school like this. She only knew the government school near their home, with a wide, dusty yard scattered with broken desks. She smiled at her gran, but her gran only looked at her with a face Sylvia had never seen before. It was a face of anger and fear at the same time. Sylvia wondered if Gran was afraid of the water shooting from the ground, or maybe she was afraid of the children swinging high on the swings. "You must behave now, do you hear?" she said in someone else's voice. "Yes, ma'am," Sylvia said, wondering how her Gran could be frightened and angry when everything looked so lovely. They walked up the shiny polished red steps of the brick building. A thin white woman sat at the desk. She spoke in English to her Gran, and her Gran spoke back, looking down at the floor the whole time. She handed the woman the big roll of money, and the woman wrote out a paper and handed it to her Gran. When they went out the door, back to the shiny steps, Sylvia was surprised to see that a small group of children had gathered. They stared at her and her Gran as they walked down the path and out the front gate. In the morning, Gran woke Sylvia before the sun and washed her in the big zinc bathtub outside. Then she brought out Sylvia's brand new school uniform and shiny black school shoes. "You look smart, Sylvia, very smart," Gran said, turning her head around to see all sides and smiling. Before reaching the school, Sylvia's Gran stopped. "It's better I leave you here, Sylvia. There's the gate, can you see it?" Sylvia nodded. "You go in that gate and ask for the Standard 1 class. They will take you there. Just tell them your name. Be a good girl. I will be right here when you finish." Sylvia looked at her Gran and wondered why she was behaving so oddly. Perhaps she was sad that all day she would be at home alone without Sylvia to keep her company. That was many weeks ago now. She had found her classroom. Inside was a tall Indian teacher at the front who spoke in English, tilting her head from side to side and smiling, showing her white teeth all of the time. The children in Sylvia's class were small like her, but she knew none of them. Some were black, some were brown, and some were white. Sylvia had never seen white children before and spent a lot of the morning sneaking shy looks at them. When tea time came, Sylvia followed the other children to the tables under the shades near the playground. She opened the tumbler that her Gran had packed in her new school bag. Inside was the leftover baleche and spinach from the night before. Her stomach growled when she saw it, and she began eating straight away, not noticing that children were gathering around her. A girl with long braids from the hair salon plaited into her head said, "Look at what she eats!" Children stood with their tinned sodas and chips in packets from the shops and laughed. Sylvia, not knowing enough English, understood nothing of what they were saying, but became scared as they gathered around her, more and more of them. She stopped eating and looked down at the table, hoping that they would leave her alone. Suddenly, a boy rushed forward and grabbed her tumbler, the one her Gran had bought new for school, and ran away with it, throwing the paleche and spinach on the green lawn along the way. Sylvia tried to catch him, but he was big and fast. She shouted, "Stop!" But he didn't. A bell rang, and the boy dropped the tumbler and stamped hard on it, smiling all of the while. When he ran past Sylvia, he said, "Go home, poor girl." Sylvia picked up the pieces of the tumbler and walked out of the school gate. She waited at the end of the road until her gran arrived. She lied to her gran, telling her that the teacher said they mustn't bring food any more to school, that the tumbler would stay there and the teacher would fill it with food instead. "That's very kind of them," Sylvia's gran said, relieved that all had gone well. Sylvia smiled up at her, agreeing. That was Sylvia's last day at the rich people's school. Still, every morning her gran would drop her at the end of the road and pick her up every afternoon at the same place. Sylvia would be full of stories about school and her friends there. At night, around the fire where they cooked, her gran would talk about how one day Sylvia would be clever and rich, and they would fly together in an airplane to see Sylvia's mother. "Your mother did the right thing, Sylvia. You shouldn't think she didn't. We will go and fetch her when you are rich from learning everything at the rich people's school." Her gran would smile and take Sylvia into her soft, jellied arms and hold her tight. Sylvia would be almost happy, save for the part that knew lying was wrong and that now maybe because she wasn't going to the rich people's school they would never get her mother back. Sylvia woke up from her sleepy dream, looked at the sun and realized that she was late. Climbing down from the boulder, she tried hard to walk quickly along the riverbed, but the sand kept swallowing her footsteps. By the time she reached the corner where her gran should have been waiting, she could feel small streams of sweat moving down her back. Where was her gran? Looking in the direction of the school, she could see that it was even later than she had thought. The rich children had all been taken home in their parents' cars. Everything was very quiet. Sylvia panicked. How would she get home? She didn't know the way well enough through the thin, winding lanes in the village. Just as tears began falling down her face, she saw her gran coming towards her from the direction of the school. When she saw Sylvia, she began to run. "Where have you been? I thought now they have taken you too, and I would be old. An old woman all alone," she said, grabbing up Sylvia in her arms, holding her tight until Sylvia thought she wouldn't breathe another breath. Then her gran set her firmly on the ground, holding her out and putting an angry face on hers where it didn't really belong. "Why have you not been going to the rich people's school?" Sylvia didn't know what to say. She didn't want her gran to cry when she found out that they might never be able to go and fetch Sylvia's mother in America just because she was frightened of the rich children. "I don't like it there," she said in a soft voice. Her gran pulled the big roll of money from her coat pocket and held it out for Sylvia to see. "Never mind. You would go to school near our house. Maybe you'll be a teacher. They are rich too, Sylvia. Do you know that?" Sylvia nodded. "We will not tell your mother. When the school money is enough, we will send it back to her and she will come home to us." She smiled down at Sylvia, and Sylvia smiled up at her wise and clever gran. Then she took Sylvia's small hand in hers, and they walked home. That was The Rich People's School by Laurie Kubuitsile from Botswana. An African-themed story today. There's so much to say about this story. Please do let me know what struck you most about this story. There are so many subtexts here. But if you could just catch your first reaction to the story, that would be really valuable. Thank you very much for listening. See you next time.